All right. Hello. We are happy you're with us for today's RDCX in Action workshop. My name is Val Jensen, and I'll be guiding today's presentation. This workshop is being recorded, and the recording will be sent to registrants in approximately 2 weeks. Please use the chat to answer any questions posed and to communicate any issues you may be having with Zoom. If you prefer to provide comments verbally during the Q&A portion of the workshop, please raise your hand and then unmute when prompted by the host. Finally, if you would like to enable closed captioning, please click the CC button. To get us started, I'm going to turn it over to Daniel Webster Jr., the Innovation Center Strategic Engagement Division Director, to welcome you and introduce what we're going to be learning about today. Dan?
Thank you, Val. Welcome everyone to our fourth Rural Development Customer Experience in Action workshop of fiscal year 24. As you'll soon see, we've truly saved the best for last. I'm incredibly excited about what's on the CX horizon for FY25, and we look to share that with you very soon. Today, we'll delve into the concept of human-centered design, or HCD, and we'll explore how it's been applied to better meet the needs of the Americans we serve. A positive customer experience is achieved when we focus on people and commit to making small yet impactful improvements to meet our customers along their journey. Human-centered design is pivotal in this approach. It's important to note that HCD prioritizes people over processes or systems when delivering services. It aims to identify and solve the root causes of issues, ensuring that solutions are genuinely effective and meaningful. Adopting HCD requires time, effort, and an open mind, and most importantly, a willingness to learn and adjust. It differs from traditional project management by emphasizing thorough and understanding before moving from problem to solution. Thank you for taking an hour out of your day to join us. We hope this session leaves you inspired to think about ways in which you can apply a human-centered design approach to your everyday work. Our goal is to ensure that our customers have the very best experience possible when working with rural development. Now, I'd like to yield the balance of my time to the Innovation Center's pioneer and very first customer experience strategist, Ms. Lauren Rayburn. Lauren, take it away.
Thank you, Dan. On behalf of the CX team, I wanted to give a quick preview of some up and coming customer experience activities that are going to be beneficial for all RD staff. Firstly, we're about to launch the first ever RD employees CX viewpoint survey next week, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But before we go to that, I wanted to also share that this year there will be a CX Day. And CX Day is something that happens globally across the world. And we will be excited to share some activities and whatnot on the horizon that RD has planned for that. And lastly, later this year, as we go into fiscal year 2025, you can also expect for us to launch our inaugural CX Learning Center. And so right now I'm going to spend a little bit of time to talk more about that RDCX viewpoint survey. If we can go to the next slide. And I wanted to share that the purpose of this is to better understand staff perspectives on what behaviors and practices contribute to creating more positive and better experiences and outcomes for our RD customers. And so with this, our DCX team will use insights from the survey that comes from staff to craft relevant resources, tools, and training so that you can more easily meet the needs of our rural customer base. And so everyone knows, the survey will run starting next Monday, July 15th, all the way through August 16th. So be on the lookout for a Newsbox announcement next week that will highlight how you can participate. One of the things that I want to share is that this will be for all RD staff. And again, I want to say all. That includes executives, policy advisors, program directors, managers, supervisors, frontline staff, also support staff. We really want to hear from all of you about how we can best provide a stellar customer experience to RD's customers. And so with that, I want to go ahead and hand it off to my colleague, Val Jensen, who will give an overview of the past CX in Action workshops that we've had, as well as set the stage for what human-centered design is. Val, are you ready?
I sure am. Thanks, Lauren. In the first workshop, we learned that customer experience encompasses how a customer feels about the sum of their interaction with us. The second workshop introduced the 3 R's of customer experience: reliability, responsiveness, relationships, in that order of importance to the customer. Reliability means to be accurate and handle mistakes. Responsiveness means to be proactive, keep customers informed, be positive and willing to help reduce the effort of the customer. And finally, relationships means to personalize the customer's experience. Listen, value each customer, and create genuine interactions. People always remember the way you made them feel. Embedding these 3 behaviors at the center of customer interactions leads to a strong brand presence, as we learned when we studied the Disney experience. In the third workshop, the Office of External Affairs joined us. We heard about the multiple ways they're listening and learning from their customers and what they're doing with the information. We've highlighted some ways we can listen to our customers: informal conversations, interviews, surveys, focus groups. We heard about the importance of actively listening when interacting with our customers. Things like be present, remove distractions, maintain eye contact, listen to understand, and ask open-ended questions. And also learned how that contributes to a positive experience. Why is this important? This leads us to the human-centered design framework. So what is human-centered design? Remember that opening slide? If you build it, will they come? Think about what that means. If we offer funding, will our customers apply for it? If we design automated systems, will our customers use them? Does the availability of a product or service warrant use of it? If you build it, will they come? What does the human-centered design have to do with those questions? Human-centered design, or HCD for short, simply stated, is an approach to problem solving that develops solutions to problems by involving human perspectives in all steps of the problem-solving process. We can't merely design for a solution for a problem, we need to design the right solution for the right problem. There are 4 basic fundamental principles of human-centered design. The principles apply even if you don't follow the process of HCD. The first principle is people-centered. This means whatever you're doing, always focus on the people. And think about all the people involved. Don't assume you know everything about them. To do this requires continuous user research. The second principle is solve the right problem. Think about an issue you've encountered. Is the problem you initially identified the actual problem or a symptom of the problem? Solving for the fundamental basic problem makes the symptom disappear. However, while solving the fundamental problem is the goal, as many of us have learned, and especially within the federal government, this isn't always easy and can take a lot of time. Therefore, sometimes we may need to solve for the symptom. The third principle is everything is a system. This means everything is interconnected. Think about and understand how each feature affects the others throughout a process. Even if you're solving for a small part, always keep the big picture in mind. Finally, the fourth principle is simple and small interventions. In essence, this means iterate, iterate, iterate. Try small, simple solutions and learn from them one by one. Continually prototype, test, and refine to make sure the solution truly meets the needs of the people you focus on. You can never go wrong when you put the needs of the people at the center of your design process. We've heard the word process a few different times. What are we referring to when we say HCD process? The human-centered design process is devised of 6 steps to help you identify the root cause of an issue or problem and design solutions for solving it. This is not meant to be a fast process. It's a process that takes time, effort, an open mind, and the willingness to learn and iterate. Reframe Frame the problem. Establish the challenge, problem, or opportunity you want to address. Plan the activities to assist throughout the process. Scoping activities is often fluid, and activities may need to be developed as other steps are completed. For example, the 4th of July holiday was last week. Some of you may have hosted a gathering. Of those that hosted, maybe this was the first time you hosted, or maybe it was the 51st time you've hosted. When you decided to be a host, there's certain things you need to consider to make it go smoothly. You think about the number of people to invite, what type of food you'll serve. Will you provide all the food? Will you ask guests to contribute? How much space do you have? Will you plan an indoor or outdoor event? If outdoor, what will you do if it rains? Will you invite families or only adults, etc.? This leads us to step number 2. Research or understand. Research and learn about the challenge and the needs of all the people involved. To help you understand what goes into hosting a gathering, you may call a friend, neighbor, relative, or visit with a coworker. You listen to the issues they've experienced when hosting and to what has gone well during their gatherings. You may also search the internet for activities, food, ideas, etc. Once you've done that, this brings us to step number 3, learn. Integrate and evaluate the information gathered while researching to get a clearer understanding of the issue, problem, or opportunity. Form a hypothesis on what is going on based on what you learned while researching. So going back to our 4th of July example, now that you've researched and talked with coworkers, looked on the internet, and learned about hosting a gathering, you start to narrow down which challenge you'll tackle first. Maybe there's a chance for rain in the forecast, so deciding how you might accommodate for that issue is the first problem or challenge you'll focus on, and that solution may also affect other factors for your gathering. Idea generation is the 4th step. Brainstorm ideas for addressing the root cause of the problem. In our example, we don't have the ability to stop the rain. We aren't able to solve for the root cause. However, we can solve for a symptom. How might we keep guests dry and happy in the event of a rainy day? We have many options for solving this issue. We could move the gathering into a garage, shop, or house, ask guests to bring umbrellas, set up a canopy, rent a large tent, rent a space large enough to accommodate our guests, or maybe not hold the gathering at all. As we develop our ideas for addressing the issues, we also narrow them to those that are most desirable, feasible, and viable. Maybe you decide the 3 most likely solutions are to rent a tent, set up a canopy you already own, or move the gathering into a garage. Now that you've narrowed it down to those 3 options, it's time to test them out to see which best meets the desirability, feasibility, and viability test. This brings us to step 5. Prototype and test. Create models or versions of your best ideas, test them with the people you're serving, and get feedback to narrow down your options for solutions. To test your options for sheltering our guests from the rain, an evening with a small group of friends or family is maybe planned. Tables and chairs are set up in the garage or shop. The canopy is erected in the yard. The group assesses how well the canopy will block the rain and the room to move in the garage. Maybe that weekend, a few of you go to a tent rental store and assess the quality and size of a large tent. After testing your most likely options, you learn the best solution for keeping your guests dry if it rains is to move the gathering into the garage. This option best meets the desirability, feasibility, viability test. Decision made. It's time to welcome and serve your guests. We're ready to implement. Implement your solutions. Simply put your tested idea into practice. So the day of the gathering is here. Your guests have arrived, folks are visiting, the sun is shining, but the clouds are quickly moving in. You start to notice a few sprinkles on the driveway. Luckily, the garage is staged and ready to serve your guests. so you move the gathering indoors. It's a tight squeeze, but your guests have been able to enjoy a non-soggy lunch. The move indoors was a success. Now that you've made it through these steps, it must mean we're done. We've successfully completed the HCD process. After all, the solution worked, right? Well, remember how we discussed that sometimes we may not be able to solve for the root cause, so we have to solve for the symptom? Or maybe we started with a small improvement and we wanted to build from there. That means we need to continuously monitor or listen to feedback and reflect on the effectiveness of our solution to assess or learn if these solutions and symptoms are meeting the needs of the people. Over time, small adjustments to processes and methods will be needed to continue to effectively serve the people. Referring back to our 4th of July gathering example, maybe you thought about the day after you climbed in bed. It went well, but it was a tight fit in the garage. You make a mental note that you could set up the tables and chairs differently to allow for more space next time you want to hold a gathering in your garage. It's okay to make iterations to the solution. In many cases, you learn and make small adjustments throughout the cycle. That's the beauty of the HCD framework. You can continue to iterate and adjust to ensure you're meeting the needs of the people you serve. To get a look at HCD in action within rural development, we've invited the Innovation Center's tribal team to highlight how the human-centered design framework has helped them to better design trainings for the people they serve. We're going to move into the tribal team's presentation in the manner in which they open their trainings. Please enjoy this brief video.
Und ich pisa orat tu ekili achuk mat pisali ushiuto glatula nata pasoa height be pula holy takelo dagriushoti tadachito Tagali Ofici Towikili Folotua Hachi Yakdiput Yukakiu Hatagan Lichu Okay.
Now I'd like to welcome Gabe Jackson from the Innovation Center's tribal team.
Thank you, Val, and thank you everyone for sharing that moment with us. Choctaw language is a very beautiful one. So we can move on to our first page. So this is our presentation on human-centered design. We're here to talk to you about the working in harmony with tribes and tribal communities training. So let's start off with who is the Rural Development Team? Rural Development Tribal Relations Team. We are led by our Native American coordinator, Ted Bulow, a longtime employee, now volunteer, Don Irby. And we have 3 tribal relations specialists and myself, Melissa Sturdivant, and Drenchie White. And we are very lucky to have Celeste Cerro as an intern. And before we move on, I wanted to just make it clear about the importance of music. It's something that we implement in our training series through breaks. We have done different important videos you're going to hear. So you're going to hear some of the music today during the polling questions. So just to know, that's bringing the training from our training to you here now in this moment. So we can start the first polling question.
They call it a pipeline, but those on the front lines know that black snake was sent for us to grow, to shed the skin our ancestors pray, of wounds old and calloused, so that we may stay, so that we may unite, unity our tool. No weapons are found in this court of rule. Men becoming ki'ai, steadfast in their guard, protecting women's hearts as their song become roots, roots to cast out healing for all sentient beings, to honor sacred mother, heart forward we heal. The salmon will run, the Mauna will breathe, the rivers will flow. The rainbow is here and prophecy tells us all generations will hear.
Okay, good to see that. I see that majority of the crowd has not visit or have attended our tribal training series, and we have people that have attended both and are attending one in 2023 or 2024. So pretty excited to see that. We can move on to our next slide. So we're going to break it down. This is our agenda for the day. Melissa is going to give you an origins of the training series. I'm going to give you a perspective of the training series in 2024 and the key takeaways. And we're going to have Gentry White from our team close us out with a training reflection. And I will pass it on to Melissa.
Well, thank you so much, Gabe. Halito, hello. Chimachukma, I hope you're well today. My name is Melissa Sturdivant, and I am Choctaw. And I work as the Tribal Relations Specialist with our Rural Development's Tribal Relations Office. I want to just open this up and share with you some of the things that Val and the CX team have been doing are centered around, it embraces everything that we've been doing on our tribal trainings. And it wasn't, necessarily a task-oriented problem-solving approach that brought this about, but it was at the direction of the USEC and our undersecretary as well, that we needed to address problems that were affecting our employees, our staff. And it wasn't, it's like the biggest barrier that I think some of our employees have said in just conversations they've asked, it's like, how do I work with tribes? I don't know what to do. I don't want to insult anyone. And so because of that hesitance and that fear of making a mistake, we hold back. We don't engage, and just by nature. And so our team brought years of experience to bring to the table, just in what you've seen Val talk about, and developing a human-centered design training, bringing all those issues to the table to address the concerns that our staff are having that could solve the problem of providing services to tribes and tribal communities. What I want to share with you here, this is a typical agenda we started with. And I would be negligent if I didn't share with you. Some of this I brought when I came to rural development. Prior to coming to being with rural development, I was within RCS, and a lot of what we do in our trainings, we did in a training program that USDA had in one of our sister agencies. That's a 20-year-old program, 20 years of immersive cultural development and enrichment. And so we took that 20 years, I was on that team for 10 years. And so 10 years of those experiences coming together to address, okay, what does our rural development staff need to be able, what will empower our staff to be able to meet the needs in every community. And so I wanted you to realize that This wasn't episodic. This wasn't just in the last year. This is 20 years and more of trying to build something that can help all of us. And so it's based on that 20 years. We started with ideally in the classroom, we would be face to face. Ideally, this setting would be a week long. And when we did this training for the other USDA employees, it's usually in person. And we were hosted by a local tribe or tribes, and we would be in person for 3+ days, totally immersive in culture and hearing directly from the tribal leadership, tribal attorneys, the tribal program staff, whatever the case, it was an immersive experience. And the main thing that our team wanted to share with you is we may be not able to come together in person right now. That's our ultimate goal. This agenda is an example of one session. We've done half-day trainings where we try to take these principles and this design and bring a training together. Part of those are the training vignettes that we've developed and had the past couple of years, and you'll hear more about. But those training vignettes are very topic driven, very focused on a need or a barrier or something that's affecting getting our program delivered. And so very focused effort on that part. This training, the agenda that you see here was a one-day training for the West region. We've done this for state-specific trainings. And so those are all options. The main thing is that our staff, our team would come in, work with you, design a training that would meet your needs and what the barriers are in your community. But the main thing I wanted to share with you here too, you heard the national anthem in the Choctaw language. That is up here at the very top of this agenda. This is how every training that we would do, that we want to take that and embrace what the tribal communities are doing. And so it models the importance and the hierarchy and the morals of those communities. And so in a tribal community, traditional blessings, you may have seen this at a powwow event, but that room is blessed before people enter it. It is cleansed of any bad spirits, and in the effort to make it a good space to be able to come together in a circle. And so everything is in a circle. The activity that you see there, we'll talk about here shortly. But every session that we begin with our national anthem and an indigenous language. And this one is a young lady in my tribal community. And so if we were in person, you'd be there hearing it in person. And then we usually, if we were in person, and if not, we're going to do videos. And so we're going to bring every type of opportunity that we can get our hands on to make that happen. We have an honor guard, we honor our veterans, we honor our elders, and that's how it happens in tribal communities when the community comes together. It's the tribal elders, it's the veterans in the community, and then the youth and the community comes together to lift them up and to protect them. And so that is how our training starts. The other activity I wanted to share with you here is that before we started the training, we asked as a kind of a get to know each other. This could be expanded and developed into a very immersive activity. And I encourage you to take this link that you see here, the native-land.ca, and it's a GIS mapping database. You can put in your physical address and you can see, the map will come up and you can see where you are physically located, who are the ancestral peoples of that space, who are the peoples that occupied that land before we were here, and who is there now. And so one of the things about that is the intent was to connect to connect who we are now to who was here before us, and Mother Earth being the commonality there. And so we're all connected. It's circular in nature, and I think that's the main thing that we wanted to convey. Each of these the agendas that we're talking about, we have these talking circles. The talking circles were built around the 4 main Ag Learn courses that are available, that we encourage our employees to look and view. And they're, it's very high level, but we take that information and we immerse you in, how does that apply to the communities where we're working? How does it apply to us as employees and the job that we need to do to make our programs available and our services available in the community? And so we take that core concept and bring together tribal experts and program experts, and we bring everybody together in that talking circle and model that behavior, and let's learn from one another. It's intended to be a safe space to ask questions. No question is a bad question, and so you have to feel safe to be able to interact and to have a conversation. And so that is kind of the main thing that we've done in that human-centered design. We didn't know that had that tag attached to it. We didn't know that's what we were doing, but I know that whatever it is, if it's a half-day training, if it's a full day, 2-day training, our hope is that you, as our employees and our RD staff, whatever you are, wherever you are in the hierarchy, that you would leave empowered, that you would leave knowledgeable and knowledgeable of cultural norms and expectations of what to make you feel comfortable and to empower you. That 2-hour session, you know, I think the training vignettes that we do, we try to do the same thing and make it a safe place where people can come together and ask those important questions. But again, the main thing is that you leave full, your heart's full, and you've been empowered to do your best when working with tribes and in tribal communities. If we can go to the next slide, please. I want to close out and share with you one of the things that kind of framed a lot of what we were doing is that we did not want you sitting there watching a PowerPoint. We did not want our staff, you know, we talked about the Ag Learn trainings, which are PowerPoint driven. We didn't want you sitting there watching PowerPoints all day long. And it was intended to model that in-person training that my experience came from, and that we bring together as much interaction. And I think where Val was talking about the fundamentals of the goals of human-centered design, the person is the center, and solving those problems, systemic in nature. And I also want to toss in intersectional and experiential. Those are everything that we've tried to do in the design of our training. And a lot of it has dealt with these theory right here that you're seeing of multiple intelligences, and the music that Gabe talked and why it's so important. The drum beat in our Native communities is the heart. It's the heart of that community, and it's the heartbeat of Mother Earth. And so that's why you hear a drum. That's why you hear music. And that's why it's very important in tribal cultures and indigenous communities, not just here, but around the world. If we were in person, you would be blessed with sweetgrass and sage, and you would have a blessing bestowed upon you by a tribal elder. And the whole goal is that your heart is full. And so we want to meet you at your space. And I want to ask you, looking at this wheel here, if you're bodily kinesthetic, you need to be up and moving. If you need to hear music, or if you're an oral learner, I want you to think back all of the things you've ever learned, going back to when newborns, there were two modalities, and that was the visual and the auditory. That's babies, that's it. That's all they can see. But over the years and over the time that you grow and you learn, you find those little niches and nuances that you identify that, I really need to hear it and do it at the same time. I really need to feel that. And that's what we're trying to do in our trainings. And that's what we've taken for human-centered design. We've incorporated the multiple intelligence theory of learning, where we want you busy. We want you experiencing it at every level, because when you stack that learning and that schema in your brain, that's when your heart becomes connected. And that's when you really begin to understand. And so I want to ask you one last question, and then I'm going to turn it over to Gabe. I want to ask you, what's your best way that you learn? Which one of these? And that's not going to be just one. It could be just one, but most folks have a lot, a spectrum of ways that they love to learn things. I hope you join us in a training in the future. Thank you so much.
Stand up with the First Nations and our people that been living here for thousands of years. Stand up. We've been fighting for our freedom since the Nina and the Pinta and the Santa Maria. Stand up. Like Geronimo, Sitting Bull, Red Cloud, Crazy Horse, Leonard Peltier. Stand up. Now they poisoning the waters for our sons and our daughters, so we on the frontier. We won. One nation, one cause, one people, one tribe. Now it's us against the pipeline. Get on your feet for Standing Rock, and we'll show you how strong we could be when we unify.
To all my native people, recognize yourself, keep your head up. To all my tribal people, recognize yourself, keep your head up. To all my native people, to all the original people, to all my indigenous people, recognize yourself, keep your head up. Stand up, 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 stand up.
From the beginning, we was winning this game on planet Earth. It's been spinning, we've been living and dying, but giving birth, the first of many nations. Celebrating them days when all that got made came after what God made. These days, we cater to these internet memes, internet streams. It seems them streams aren't clean. We need the whole.
That's amazing. I can see there's a lot of multiple, you need several things to help and to experience and to learn, and that's amazing. And so in a future tribal training that we plan and offer, and you get a survey asking, it may ask you, do you want to, is there something special that you want to do and see? And so, and I hope in the future that we can have an in-person training, because I know you will be moved. And I hope you're moved in any of the tribal training that you attend with us. Thanks so much. Gabe, turn it over to you. Thank you.
No, thank you, Melissa, for not just giving the foundation for the rest of the presentation, but for paving the way forward to this amazing training. So thank you. I'm very happy and fortunate to be one of your team members. So before the training day itself, before the training day actually happens, there's some things we do before. So before, we like to send out the agenda that Melissa has gone over to show you who the panelists are and what sessions we have on which days. But then also a really important component to that is the pre-training survey. And on that survey, it's a series of questions. So one of the questions is there's 10 questions that are true or false. And I'll give an example of one. Tribal consultation only has to occur once a year. That is false. Tribal consultation should occur when substantial policy action occurs or is in development. So pretty much as needed. We also like to check in to see what is your comfortability of working with tribal communities or tribal members, tribal stakeholders. And we also like to figure out what is your frequency in which you work with those tribal communities as well. You could be like the tribal relations team and you work with them on a daily to weekly basis, or you can be someone saying, I work with tribes probably once a year, but we'd like to figure that out so we can help inform where we are and where we're going. And I will pass it to the next slide. So training day 2024, how did it go? What was it? How did it go? So our training this year consisted of 2 days. And over those 2 days, we had 4 sessions. So on day 1, we had tribal trust responsibility and tribal sovereignty. And on day 2, we had tribal consultation and historical, federal, and tribal relationships. So that's one of the big opponents that our panelists helps come in and talk to us about. And with Ted as a facilitator or the team, we're able to go through those big topics and have really fruitful discussion. So we can move to the next slide to see how many people we actually reached that day. So on day 1, we had 274 participants. And on day 2, we had 227 participants. That's huge. To give you reference, for the West training last in 2023, we had 153 people. So to have 200 plus on both days was a really great milestone for the team. And it's a trend we would like to see going forward. So a number that's really important to keep in mind is 189. So what's so important about 189? 189 is the number of people that attended day 1 and day 2 of the training this year in 2024. So you're going to see a graphic, but we're going to break it down. So we can switch to the next graphic. So this is the GS grade distribution for those who attended both days. So we're going to look at this. We can see that we had 1.5% GS 5s and 6, so that's around 2 people. And then we also had individuals that were GS 15s, 14s. And the biggest group of the training in 2024 was 32%, and that was GS 12s. So for numbers, that's around 60 people. And it's not on here, but the training consisted of individuals that were national office staff, field office staff, and state office staff. So the big takeaway is that our training is reaching the people that are working with tribal communities and tribal customers through every step of the process. Whereas that you're a program manager, you're a director, you're someone who manages people and teams. So we're getting that holistic approach, and it's really good to see that in action. And before we move on to the final phase, we're going to do our final polling question.
Whole story scene.
So what were your takeaways from the RD tribal trainings that you attended? And I do know most individuals did not attend the training this year, but for those who did, we'll love to see what you have to say.
Where gasoline before water has gasoline in it. Malcolm X moment. Martin Luther King with a dream and war boning. Wounded knee plus Alcatraz, doggone it. This is for the rock with prayers we stand on it.
Oh yeah, we playing on it, the earth, we camp on it. In a sweat lodge, singing our songs with grandfathers. Heat rocks all in the spot, we splash on them with a beatbox from my boy, be jam on it. Said a prayer for the black snake killers. Train on the front lines, they you're the realest. Stand for your people, stand for your family. Stand with Standing Rock, stand for humanity. Hey.
It takes a group of people who actually care about, Mother Earth and life and water being sacred and the land being sacred to say, we stand up.
To all my native people, recognize yourself, keep your head up. To all my tribal people, recognize yourself, keep your head up. To all my native people.
Well, look at this. So, majority of the group found it very informative for those who did attend. I appreciate Tim. He said we need to have all the above button. And we have 33% who wants to attend the training in the future. And that brings a lot of joy to myself and the team. So we can go into the last stage of the training. So before we get into the list, let me give you a breakdown. So after training day happens and we go through that, we also do some things post-training as well. So we send out resources from the tribal training. So there's some times that we go over resources such as the tribal obligation dashboard. So we'll send out the links, or our panelists will refer to educational materials, studies, and those amazing videos you get to hear, we send those all out in a big email and a resource list. And then the final big component is our post-training survey. The post-training survey is our final opportunity to see how do people improve from those 10 true or false questions. But it's not about getting the answers right or wrong. It's about tracking your understanding. So we love the quantitative feedback with the numbers, but I really, and the team really loves the qualitative feedback. So all the lists you're going to see is from our qualitative feedback that we got. So the words of people's positive suggestions and trainings that are all taken. So we get a list of different topics and we compile it into big themes. And these big themes end up being the list that you see today. So I'm gonna go over the first list, and we're not gonna go through every one, but we'll talk about some highlights. So we're talking about the top 10 positives for 2024. People thought it was thought-provoking and an informative experience. It's always great when people think the training was worth their time and experience, because we understand how busy people are. And for you to give us that time to learn for these communities is really important. Tribal voices, the knowledge, perspectives, and diversity of our panelists is a stable foundation of our training, and it really keeps bringing people in. We even had people this past year that attended 2023, but again, they felt compelled to come back again. Historic and real world context. So like I said, we go through topics like tribal trust responsibility and tribal sovereignty. They can be very complex and tough topics, but when we sit down together and think about it, there is simplicity in it when we work together and we continue to find ways to learn. And we use, for this for tribal sovereignty, we talked about the McGirt v. Oklahoma case. So you can see how sovereignty is playing out in real time. It's a model training. People felt the training was so good, they want to see it replicated in the future. And lastly, my favorite is seeing relationships and actions. You'll notice people will have nicknames, people will have the conversation of the panels flow so well, or people like Ted and our different team members. And that's because these relationships were formed over decades. And I will pass it to the next slide. So top 10 suggestions and improvements. So as I said earlier, our training this year, it was 2 days. And the number one suggestion of this year was make it 1 day. The funny part to that is in 2023, the training was 1 day, and the number one suggestion was to make it 2 days. And that's okay. It shows that our team is willing to be flexible and try new things if it's going to improve the quality of our training series. So we're always looking for ways to be new and develop and get better. 2 is replicate the training. So people want to see it happen in more days or more options. Oh, I couldn't make it this week, but could you guys have it again next month or the month after that? That's something we'll keep thinking about. 3 is increasing the speaking role for program staff. So our panelists is a highlight, but people also want to hear about how is this community facilities program director person, how are they managing tribal sovereignty and tribal consultation in their job on their day-to-day? 4 is a really big one. We understand, and that's improved video quality. You know, we do run-throughs, we do dry runs, all those kind of things, but sometimes things happen, but we're always looking for ways to mitigate that as much as possible. And 5, focus on specific program areas. They're like, yeah, I really enjoyed the training, but I want to hear how it affects single-family housing, how it affects community facilities or water and environmental programs. And we can go to the final top 10 list. So the final top 10 list is probably one of the most important for sure. It is our top 10 future training topics. So Melissa mentioned a term called training vignettes, and we'll talk about that in a second. But for this year in 2024, the number one desired training was tribal consultation, specifically section 106. And that actually was number 1 in 2023 as well. 2 is advanced tribal training state focus. So people say, hey, I love these topics, but I want to hear specifically from my state perspective and with our specific unique tribes that we have in our region. Environmental review, a very timely and always important topic, important laws such as NEPA. And connecting with tribes locally. You know, we talked about giving advice on how to form relations you might not have with tribes, like attend a local powwow and different things like that. But we can go into that in more detail. The importance of regalia and tribal dress in their clothing. And the advanced tribal training program is so figuring out how we can do this advanced training, but from that program area perspective. So I mentioned this term training vignettes. In 2023, we used the feedback from the training and we curated 2 trainings actually last year. We brought in the BIA, so the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and their 105L lease program team. There was 2 individuals, and they were able to come in and talk to our RD staff about how to handle these complex issues of this desire for the program and make it very seamless and easy for tribes to get their applications across the finish line. So it was really good for them to go in the weeds of the program and to see how much they have grown from 2019 to now. We also had our tribal historic preservation officers come in to address that big issue in tribal consultation in Section 106. And it's always great to have these vignettes because it shows us that at the end of the day, we're one big team. And that's something that maybe sometimes we can forget when we're working in a specific place or specific area. But when we come together, the true winner is our customers and the tribal communities. And I will have Drenchy White close us out.
Thank you, Gabe, and I appreciate the opportunity to share a few of my reflections on the tribal training and how it all ties back to human-centered design. So the 2024 tribal training was my first opportunity to see how the tribal team developed and designed the training content and materials. And it was just wonderful to see all the considerations that were made and to hear the conversations that the team had in determining what content would be shared with the staff and how to best present that content. If you've had the opportunity to attend our past trainings, then you may have noticed that the content was shared through different types of communication. So the team incorporated videos for music, recorded videos, just live panels, surveys, and open floor discussions. And all of these elements really helped to ensure that the participants were able to connect with the training content in a variety of ways. So even our panel discussions and the Q&A sessions were tailored to be responsive to the questions and the topics that all of the staff had asked for. So why does human-centered design matter in tribal training? Well, it's important because we want to make sure that participants leave with a positive and lasting impact. And we can do that by making sure that the participants can connect to the training material through a design in which the needs, the needs and the wants and the interests of the staff are being addressed. We want staff to leave feeling not only that they learned something, but we want them to feel empowered and encouraged to go out and to continue to learn more about the Native communities that we work with. So how do we incorporate human-centered design into our approach to working with tribes and Alaska Native communities? Well, we can do this by going out and building those relationships and learning more about the needs and the goals of each community. So we know that needs, wants, and capacity will vary from one tribal community to the next. So just taking that step and the opportunities to learn more will go so far in helping us to design and to be more impactful in how we provide technical assistance in our outreach and how we provide overall services to tribes and Alaska Native communities. The final point on this slide is just a question of how will you go out and incorporate human-centered design in your work with tribes and Alaska Native communities? And this is just to help us keep thinking about how we'll continue to build those relationships and how we can go out and seek opportunities to learn more. So we may not all work with tribes or Native communities on a daily basis, but we all have the opportunity every day to learn a little bit more and to build stronger relationships that will help us to improve our programs and services so that we're creating that positive and lasting impact for our Native communities. Next slide. So we really want to just thank everybody for giving us the opportunity to speak a bit about the tribal training. Throughout this presentation, we've tried to give you that immersive feel and give you videos, share some music, take poll questions so that we can get to learn a little bit about you, while also sharing some topics that you may not have been exposed to before and may be interested in learning more about. So we'd like to ask you to also share some information with us. We'd like to ask you to put into the chat any topics that you'd like to see on the next tribal training, any questions that you might have for the next tribal training that we can incorporate. Please go ahead and throw those in the chat. We'll give you a minute to do so, play some music for you, and then we're happy to take a couple of questions and pass it back over to CX. Thank you.
To all the original people, to all my indigenous people, recognize yourself, keep your head.
Mini Wachoni, Water is life.
Minnie Wachoni.
Water is life.
Water is life. Water is life.
Water is life.
I stand
I stand with Standing Rock.
I stand with Standing Rock.
I stand with Standing Rock. Stand up. Stand up.
Stand up. Stand up.
I stand with Standing Rock. Stand up.
To all my native people, woke up the giant, we won't go quiet. To all my tribal people, don't mistake our peace as we stand defiant. To all my native people, it's the calm before the storm and I can hear it coming. To all my tribal people, I'm ready for the battle when we ain't running. Stand up.
All right. Thank you so much to the Innovation Center's tribal team, to Melissa, to Gabe, to Gentry. We know you put a lot of time into this, and we know you put a lot of thought into how you're going to deliver your trainings. And I know you mentioned at one point you didn't even realize what it was called, following kind of that HCD model. I think a lot of us do that on a daily basis. And so I just really want to say thank you for taking us through that journey. That training journey. Your commitment to serving the people was evident throughout the training. You discussed tailoring the training to those in the room or the regions you're serving. It's interactive. What originated from an in-person training was adapted to be immersive and as inclusive as possible in a virtual setting. You discussed obtaining feedback and implementing what you learned to adapt the training to meet the needs of those attending. And so you see, this is a great example of how human-centered design doesn't have to be overwhelming. It's as simple as doing these little things along the way and just being very focused on those that we're serving and those that we're going to be interacting with. And so while the planning and preparation may not be necessarily that fast process, adapting to the needs of the people is integral in creating a positive experience. So with that, we only have about 2 minutes, and I know I do see some questions in the chat. And so I'm just going to ask, I think at this point, I'll just ask one, and we will take a look at them and we will do our best to get through them and maybe get them out to you within the next couple weeks here so that we can answer them for you. So watch for that to come. But the one question that I think we had that really kind of resonated was, what broad lessons learned has the RD Tribal Relations team learned that the rest of USDA can incorporate as best practices?
I'll take a first knock at that. There are 574 federally recognized tribes. 574. There are hundreds more that are not recognized, and that recognized status is a little bit different, and it calls for a nation-to-nation relationship. It's more formal. It's sovereignty. There are tribes that don't have that. There are tribes that are working on it. There are state-recognized tribes. There are tribes that are working on their state recognition, and there's tribes that are not working on their recognition. And the number one reason why is because of that historical federal tribal relationship has been skewed with so much trauma. And so in some places it's hard, and we know it's hard to build a relationship if you're in an area that has had a lot of trauma and over the years, and it's all about resources. It's all about land and the resources. So I think we can help you kind of wade through some of those, but I think my biggest thing is before you can have consultation, you need to have coordination and collaboration. And all that starts with a conversation. You've got to be talking. And that could be a friend that you have. It could be going to a powwow, going to an event, and just being present, and being authentic and having an interest. Tribes know when you're authentic. They know when you're sincere about what you want to do and that you want to help. I do want to briefly say one other thing I think Warren asked, what keeps you up at night? What keeps me up at night is the fact there's so much more to do. You know, again, there's 574 federally recognized tribes and all those others. And just our customers in general, before RD, I was with NRCS. So they're all my customers. And so I think just there's so much more to do, and we're limited in our capacity, not from the heart, but the physical of what we're able to do. So, Gentry, you want to
I
comment?
think you said it well, Melissa. And, you know, we approach this work with open hearts and open minds. So, but Melissa said it very well.
Mr. Gabe?
Oh no, I'll tell you one thing that keeps me up. One thing I always reflect on, you know, I'm not a tribal member, and when I was growing up, I was always like, why wasn't any of this stuff taught in schools or like really in the detail? And the longer I've been in this role and experience, I'm starting to really understand why that may have been the case and why this is happening. So I'm glad that I'm becoming more knowledgeable of these things, and I'm so forward and thankful to be able to share it with other people.
And please check out our webpage, and definitely you'll get notices about any upcoming trainings. But we hope to see you at one of the trainings. Thank you so much. Val, thank you. No, we're over. I'm
Thanks.
sorry.
No, you're very good. Thanks again. Just a little quick note here. This is the Innovation Center CX team. We are small. There are only 4 of us, but we are passionate to continue to bring you some ways to maybe think about how we engage with our customers, what it means to be very people-centered. And so as a reminder, please just watch for that CX viewpoint survey within the next week. It will be open from mid-August through mid-July. We really understand this is a busy time, and we're asking that you please take about 20 minutes to complete it. It really helps us to see where we're at this point and what our thought process is around being focused on the customer experience. And so we look forward to continuing to serve you as we wind down this fiscal year and prepare the new fiscal year. Watch for our at-large strategy and our CX Learning Center to be rolled out early in fiscal year 25. And we've been working hard to just make sure we can do what we can to serve you, as that really is our focus. So once again, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules for joining us for the fiscal year 24 CX in Action workshop series. This is the last one for this year, but we invite you to re-listen to all or parts of the CX in Action series, reflect on the learnings, in particular the 3 R's, and Melissa summed them up here too. Just be responsive, build those relationships, and be reliable, and think about how those actions positively impact the experience of the people you serve. Thank you, and have a fantastic day.